Welcome to the channel. Help me hit 600 subscribers. Now let's go to the video. Saudi Arabia sports binge. After years of relentless spending, Saudi Arabia is now a central player in the world's most lucrative sports. Critics say it's sports wash, but is there an economic payoff that makes it all worth it? The outsized role Saudi Arabia now plays in global sport was showcased in early May 2023 in a major dispute involving Lionel Messi, the world's most distinguished footballer. Messi was suspended by his club, French club Paris Saint-Germain, PSG, owned by Qatar, for making an unauthorized trip to Saudi Arabia as part of his ambassadorial role for the Saudi Tourism Authority. The Argentine has since announced that he will leave PSG for MLS Inter Miami at the end of the season. Messi earns tens of millions of euros for this role in Saudi Arabia, part of a huge investment the kingdom is currently making in professional sport. A 2021 report by London-based human rights group Grant Liberty found that Saudi Arabia spent $1.5 billion, 1.37 billion euros, on professional sports in previous years. That number has increased dramatically over the past 2 years, with increased investment in football, golf, motorsport and cricket. The country's sovereign wealth fund, the Public Investment Fund, PIF, spent around $800 million on its LIV Golf Tour in 2022 alone, according to the tour's former COO, Atul Khosla. It also bought English football club Newcastle United for around €400 million, $438 million, in 2021 and has spent over €300 million on new players since then. Within Saudi domestic football, a fortune has been spent to bring Cristiano Ronaldo into the league. The kingdom has also recently announced plans to drastically increase cricket spending. He wants to become a global cricket destination, creating one of the most lucrative tournaments in the world. Earlier this year, it was reported that Saudi Arabia came close to buying all of Formula One in a deal reportedly worth over $20 billion. Solving Saudi Arabia's image problem. A host of critics accuse Saudi Arabia of engaging in sports laundering on a massive scale. Greenpeace defines sports washing as the act of sponsoring a team or sporting event to deflect attention from bad practices elsewhere. This tactic is often used by companies and governments with poor environmental or human rights records, exploiting people's love by sports to wash their image clean. Saudi Arabia certainly has an image problem. Amnesty International says the country is guilty of numerous cases of human rights abuses, from a lack of freedom of expression to the continued use of the death penalty, the lack of rights for migrants and the severe institutionalized oppression of women and girls. Another major issue in recent years has been the murder of journalist Jamal Khashoggi at the Saudi consulate in Istanbul in 2018. This has sparked global outrage and severe criticism of the Saudi government ever since. John B. Alterman, director of the Middle East program at the Center for Strategic and International Studies, says the goal of Saudi Arabia's massive spending on sports is to build a more positive image of the country as a whole. The country's leadership would like the international public to have positive associations with the kingdom, he said. When the Western public thinks of Saudi Arabia, many people first think of things like unearned oil wealth, terrorism and gender segregation. He says Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, Saudi Arabia's de facto ruler, and the leadership team around him see sports as a vital part of their overall strategy to change the country's international political and economic position. The Saudi leadership views their country as dynamic and modern and expects sports to highlight the ways in which Saudi Arabia is like the rest of the world, not the ways in which it is different from the rest, Alterman said. Pivot for tourism. Ultimately, creating more positive associations is likely to have a direct impact on the country's economy. It is no coincidence that Messi is spearheading the tourism campaign, as the country's leadership see this as a vital sector in their attempt to diversify the country's economy away from its current dependency on oil. Around 40% of Saudi GDP is based on oil, while around 80% of the country's export earnings are linked to its oil production. Tourism receipts have risen sharply in the country in 2022 and the government has extremely ambitious plans, aiming to attract around 100 million visitors annually by the end of the decade, as part of bin Salman's Saudi Vision 2030 strategic framework. The So Water. The latest NEOM project, the The so-called smart city that Saudi Arabia plans to build in the northwest of the country has been described by the government as the most ambitious tourism project in the world. However, attracting such a large number of foreign visitors will be a major challenge. Last year, around 16.5 million foreign visitors came to the country. The International Monetary Fund projects Saudi economic growth will more than halve to 3.1% this year, mainly on account of a slowdown in the oil sector. However, the bumper year enjoyed by state oil company Saudi Aramco in 2022, when it made record profits of $161 billion, means the Saudi government has managed to inject cash into the PIF, which it is using to boost its strategic investments in sports and elsewhere. Meanwhile, economic activity outside the oil business increased by 5.8% year-on-year, according to this week's figures. The Saudi economy is robust and there is growing interest in the global business community to expand ties with Saudi Arabia, said Alterman. One such partner is China. Now Saudi Arabia's main trading partner, business between them has expanded in recent years far beyond oil. Saudi Arabia now imports a great deal of Chinese technology, much of it for weapons as it expands its military. Criticism of Saudi Arabia's sports investments will continue, but the long-term success of the strategy seems inevitable, Alterman suggested. Emirates Airline sponsorship of several European football clubs over more than a decade demonstrates how sports sponsorship can increase branding and awareness, he said, highlighting the success of one of Saudi Arabia's regional rivals, Dubai. Saudi Arabia wants people to be curious about the kingdom. With its fingerprints now on some of the most popular and profitable sports on the planet, this is clearly already the case. Hope you enjoyed the video. What did you think of the video? Subscribe to the channel and leave your opinion in the comments.